Okay, Jeremy, let's take on this idea of corroborated and credible, because I think people that don't understand how an intelligence product comes together and how it's used may think that this is a wave off, and this may work for some of Trump's base. But let's do two things. One, after 9/11, there was a threat, there was a plot that was credible enough that everyone still takes their shoes off before they board a plane. Now, credibility is on a spectrum, right? And in this plot was credible enough that we briefed our allies. We briefed the military, special operations. We had all of the officials who are high enough up the chain of command to live and work in Washington, D.C., sit down in the Situation Room in March in the White House to figure out what to do about it. So take on this sort of feeble defense that the White House seems to have landed on, that, it wasn't credible. And let me ask you to explain this, too. A president who cares about national security and who cares about the safety of their troops, a normal president is made aware of any threat to troops on a battlefield. And this president was made aware enough of the threat posed by Iran and Soleimani to blow him up. So this is not a president shielded from threats to the troops on the battlefield.
That's right, Nicole. So we collect intelligence in Afghanistan, for example, from detainees. We collect that information. And some of that information is used to form finished analysis, analytic products that the intelligence community produces and gives to the president and other senior policymakers. But a presidential daily brief book, and you've seen some and I've seen many as well, they contain both those finished analytic pieces that explain, hey, we've got some information and here's our view of it. But they also sometimes provide some of the raw reporting, the raw collection. And presidents often are told, hey, we've got this tip or we've got this information from a human source, or we've collected this information. We're still working on what it means and what our options are. But it's totally inconceivable, and I think, frankly, an outright lie, that the White House would have to wait until everything was buttoned up and verified to present it to the president. I think, Nicole, what's going on here is that either they told the president and he forgot, dismissed, or ignored it, and I think that's likely, or maybe they said to him, look, we're going to work on this, and he now wants to disavow that he knew about it because he hasn't taken action against it, because I think, frankly, he has not wanted to take tough action against Russia all along.
Jeremy, 3 former intelligence officials said there's no way this wasn't in the PDB. One former intelligence official said it would have been the first item in the PDB under a headline along the lines of threats to American soldiers in Afghanistan. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do. And not only that, but this is exactly the kind of information that would go up, for example, through the Defense Intelligence Agency or through the J2, the intel staff on the Joint Staff. This would get in the hands of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, not to mention the CIA director and director of national intelligence. All of those people spent a lot of time with the president. It's inconceivable that for the last 6 months, not one of them said, hey, Mr. President, we have a direct threat to our troops. It is just outlandish, ridiculous. The fact that Kylie McEnany is standing there saying that, I think she's just insulting the intelligence of everybody who works in national security.
Claire, let's turn to the idea of oversight. These former intelligence officials said we're asking the wrong question when we asked why wasn't the Gang of 8 briefed. This should have been briefed to the Armed Services Committee, should have been briefed to the Intel committees. I mean, why is Congress being cut out because the whole process is so broken? I mean, what are your questions?
Maybe even worse than that, Nicole. Let's look at this. At 1 o'clock this afternoon, the president's press representative said he still hadn't been briefed. Now, let that sink in. He's been playing golf. He's been tweeting stuff, but he hasn't said, hey, I need to get to the bottom of this. This is really important. Our enemy, Russia, is putting a price on the heads of our military. Now, let's think about what's going on this afternoon in addition to that. They're doing a briefing at the White House for Republicans only. That is unheard of at moments like this. It's the United States of America, and one of the few places that we've managed to keep it united is support for our troops. This should be a bipartisan briefing of, if you don't want the whole Senate, then it should certainly be the Intelligence Committee with Gina Haspel answering questions. It should certainly be the Armed Services Committee with the Esper answering questions. It should certainly be the Foreign Relations Committee with Pompeo answering questions. And it should be Republicans and Democrats. But the notion they are asking the Republicans to run up to the White House to get their political instructions, to learn how to lie for this president at a moment that Putin has a price on the heads of our military in Afghanistan. This is a scandal. I mean, they wanted to make a big deal about Benghazi. This makes Benghazi look like playing with toys. This is a big deal, and they are not treating it like it's a big deal.
Claire, let me be as pointed as I can about this question. So Trump wins, and he likens the American intelligence community to Nazis. He's there a few weeks. He asks Comey to see to it to let Flynn go. Comey refuses. He fires Comey, and he's spent the better part of 3 years smearing him. He sets his sights on McCabe, smears and fires him a few days, I think, short of his pension vesting because his wife had the audacity to run for office. He moves on to Robert Mueller, who served George W. Bush after the attacks of 9/11 and continued and served Obama, attacked his 17 angry Democrats. Republicans say not one word. Not about the intelligence community being compared to Nazis, not about Jim Comey, appointed George W. Bush's deputy attorney general, not about Robert Mueller, George W. Bush's FBI director, not about the Mueller investigators who put away a lot of bad guys over the course of their careers. Republicans still mum. Then Bill Taylor, Ambassador Taylor, testifies during impeachment and said Ukrainians died while Donald Trump was diddling around with their military assistance that Congress approved. Republicans approved. They say nothing. Dead Ukrainians didn't move them. Now you got dead American soldiers and Republicans say nothing. What is the when do you cease to be a party if you say nothing? And what's next?
Well, and don't forget that Trump stood up next to Putin in Helsinki and said, I believe him instead of my own intelligence community. I think he's telling the truth, Putin, instead of the men and women. By the way, the majority of the people who serve in the Intelligence Committee are veterans. So here's what's happened here. This is a repeat of Ukraine. There is someone in the intelligence community that is so upset about this, that knows what's going on, that has leaked this because they are so worried about our troops and realize this president doesn't care. He cares more about a stupid tweet than he cares about the lives of Americans risking their lives for us in Afghanistan against the Taliban. So, I mean, this is really what's going on here. This is a repeat. Now, Vindman, we saw what happened to Vindman when he did his patriotic duty. The question is, will they now ferret out who this patriot is? Will this patriot come forward, and will they do the same thing to him or her?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.